What's going on, guys? I am out here with the new Nissan Z. That's right, the new Nissan Z. And I am at the tail of the dragon. I know, can you believe it? Nissan let us bring the new Z to the tail of the dragon. And by us, I mean a number of automotive journalists. I'm out here with the Southeast Region Automotive Media Association. Anyway, long name, called Sarama. And we've got a number of cars to test. And this is the one, this is probably the one that the most people are fighting over, is the new Nissan Z. So let's take a look at the Z. Let me show you what it's like on the Dragon in an extended drive. I just got back from running the Dragon in this, and it was a ton of fun. So let's talk about that. Let's check out the vehicle, and let me know what you think in the comments of the new Nissan Z. Okay, yeah, go ahead. First of all, let's talk styling, because I think that's the thing people are wondering about, is the styling. And I'll be the first to admit that when I saw the new Z in photographs, I was like, okay, it looks fine, it's okay, it's not bad, it's all right. It looks a lot better in person, it really does. And I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't do that to you. I am not just saying that. Now, of course, this view here, this rear view, is by far like everyone's favorite. It looks like the 300ZX. I was obsessed with the 300ZX when I was in like middle school. I loved the 300ZX, and the Z harkens back to that. It looks a lot like the 300ZX from the rear, and I love that. I really love that, okay? But I was surprised by how much I liked the front end. The front end has more character in person than you might think. There are lines and bulges and creases in this sort of design that you don't really see in pictures. And overall, I think the new Z looks a lot better in person than you might be expecting. Now, what about inside? How does it look inside? Well, the Z looks really nice in here. The interior is pretty good. Like, it's got good materials, good ergonomics. I'm 6'6" if you're new to the channel, and I can fit in this easily, like very easily. I like the steering wheel has a nice feel. The shifter feels kind of good and purposeful. I mean, overall, the interior of the Z looks good. The digital gauge cluster looks great. It's super bright. Sun's starting to go down here at the tail of the Dragon, and it was crystal clear, especially because it was my first time being behind the wheel of the car, and the first time ever driving a car at the tail of the Dragon can be a little intimidating, and it looked absolutely awesome. Good tech, good infotainment, so nothing to really complain about there. I think the interior is solid. Is it quite as nice as like the interior in something like the Supra? Maybe not quite, you know, you got a lot of that like kind of BMW DNA there, but it's definitely not bad at the price. It's totally fine for the price. So I would say the interior is good, and the way that a tallish person fits in here is good. Decent amount of cargo space under the hatch, not much to complain about in here. It's a solid effort. Now, what about this powertrain? Well, it's a 400 horsepower twin turbo V6, and it's running through a 6-speed manual transmission with rev matching. How does it work? Well, 400 horsepower going to the rear wheels. It's pretty fantastic. I was surprised, and if you watch through the whole Dragon Drive portion of the video, I was surprised with how much character that this power plant has. It has a lot of character. It has a lot of kind of cool characteristics. That's the same thing as character. Anyway, it's got a lot of sort of its own unique flavor. How about that? Does that sound better? Do you like that? Do you like that, huh? Do you like that? Anyway, it definitely does its own thing, okay? Let's just put it that way. It has a sort of whooshy buildup. It has lag, okay, as you would say. It's not as insanely responsive as the B58 in the Supra, but I really like this engine, actually. I really do. It's way more kind of a gut punch than I first thought. Like, at first I was like, is it really fast? But then on the Dragon I was like, no, it's fast. It's fast. So I've been wanting to drive the Nissan Z. It's been a very popular car here at this event, as you can imagine. And I mean, power is definitely not a problem. Clutch take up is super high and very light. So as a taller person, that's something that you might want to keep in mind. I'm sure you would get used to it, but it makes the clutch engagement like a little bit awkward, you know what I'm saying? Right from the start after jumping in, steering feels pretty good. Love the gauge cluster, nice and bright, definitely easy to read at a glance, especially on a road like this. Brakes definitely have bite to them, but the pedal feels a bit soft. It's a bit soft in the first initial bit of travel there. I'm not going super hard because this is literally the first time I've been behind the wheel of the Z today, and I do not want to stuff this thing. We have a limited amount of time left with it, and so I'm trying to use as much time as possible. The front end feels good though. Getting good grip out of it. I want to say that it's like 255 width front, 275 rear, maybe on some, I think, Bridgestone summer tires, which is not great because it's freezing freaking cold outside right now. Okay, it's not as razor sharp or planted as the Supra, and the steering feels a bit slower. It's not as quick, but I like the wheel. I like the feel of the wheel for sure. I mean, keep in mind, y'all, this is the tail of the dragon. This is like one of the most demanding driving roads on earth, and we've got the brand new Z that's not even out yet. So, you know, I'm not going crazy here, and this is not a track, but it definitely is handling this road. You feel the power and the torque is good. When I first got behind the wheel, I was a little surprised. I didn't think it was quite as powerful as the 400 horsepower would suggest, but it is. It's got some punch to it. Brakes are a little inconsistent for me though. The Supra feels like more of a weapon to me. You notice the size of it on this road, but not as much as I would have thought. And that's coming from someone who drives a C5 Corvette. Byron from 615 and the Miata drive 615, letting me come around. That was nice of them. I mean, it's hanging in on some of these corners. It definitely could do more than what I'm asking it to do at the moment. It doesn't like chuck itself into the corner the way some vehicles do on this road, but it's not super surprising. I bet there's more than a few people that are surprised to see this thing out here. And in case you're wondering, manual transmission fans, I'm running this in almost entirely third gear. So if you don't see me shifting, there's two reasons for that. One is the torque for most of these corners in third gear is enough. We are not racing this thing. I'm not trying to go crazy. So I'm running this almost entirely in third gear. The other reason is so that I can concentrate on what I'm doing. Because when you come through sections like the famous dip right here, it's extremely unsettling to the chassis, and you have to be paying very close attention to what's going on, especially in a car that you're not familiar with. But you know, despite not being as insanely kind of dialed in as the Supra just feels like manic almost on this road. It's like frenetic, kinetic, other edX energy. Like it just has this like otherworldly presence. This feels a little bit more like my C5 Corvette. It's a little bit more of a brute. There's the 370Z. I bet he was excited to see this. It's just a little bit more brutish. It's a little bit softer. My C5 was on its stock suspension for a long time, and I would take this road and it's a little squidgy. It's a little bouncy. This is this is almost absurdly comfortable. Actually, that's a very good point. This is very comfortable for like what it is. It's like a GT car, and I know some other reviewers have said that, and it is absolutely true. Absolutely true. You could stiffen up this thing by quite a bit and maybe get some more intensity out of it. Woo, and those turbos spool up? Wow. Wow, that is good stuff there. I don't want to cook the brakes too much though, because this thing has been driven fairly hard today. but I do want to plumb that power a little bit more, because that was impressive. Got a hard right-hander here. There goes a Miata again. There's some charm to this powertrain, man. I will tell you that right now. There is charm to this powertrain that is, it feels a little bit special. Like it has a character to it. It's not the greatest sound in the world, honestly. It's got kind of a industrial sort of sound to it. There's a charm, I think. Go down to second there. Yeah, that clutch is hard for me to work. I'm sorry. Sorry that I'm not a more talented driver, guys, but for someone like me, I'm tall, I'm not used to this clutch. It is very light and high in the travel, and you got to kind of swing out on this turn and double apex it, which I have somewhat failed to do there. This is a better experience than I was expecting. Wow, the front end hanging in there on that turn, that was something else. That was something else, man. Good for you, Z. That was, wow. I was not expecting to enjoy this car. The first time I was behind the wheel in it, I was a little bit negative. We got to ride around in it when we first arrived, and I was kind of like, meh. There's something kind of charming about this car. I braked way too much there. I was looking at the sunset, thinking about how much time I have left to film. These decreasing radius turns, this thing, woo, man. Might be some credit goes to these Bridgestones. They're doing a good job. I wonder what this thing would do on some real stickies. Wow, 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 wow. Go Z, go Z. This is a lot more fun than I was expecting. And guys, you know me, if you watch the channel, I try to keep it honest all the time. If I don't like something, I say I don't like it. If I like it or I'm wrong about it, I admit when I'm like it or wrong about it. I always try to tell the truth. If you're new to the channel, it's like my thing, man. I like to have fun and be funny and make jokes, but then I also will tell you if someone that I've made a joke at the expense of actually is, producing something good. And I've, made a few jokes at Nissan's expense before. And when I got into the Z, I was like, materials are pretty good. Like, driving position is pretty good. Everything's pretty good. I had a little bit more love for the Supra, although I'm not like a Supra fanboy or something. Yes, please. It's not like ultra responsive, but when it whooshes up like that, there's definitely some charm and character to that. And I will admit to y'all that there is a lot more joy to this experience than I was expecting. That is 100% certain, and I missed the apex of that corner like a lug. Oh my God, that was embarrassingly bad. What am I doing? This section is kind of gnarly here. Whip it back to the left, come around here. Wish maybe the turn-in was a little sharper. It definitely feels like a weightier car than the Supra we have out here, that is for sure. But front-end grip is commendable. And it is very comfortable. Like, just surprisingly so. I mean, you could seriously, if they Nismo this thing, another 50% stiffer suspension, feel that front end push a little bit there. That was a nasty turn, and I could feel it there. But you could, this thing has more to give. This thing has more to give. That's an exciting kind of proposition. It has more to give. I will also give it sort of points for being a lot roomier than the Supra. Yes, 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 yes. Oh man, come on Z, come on. Give me some of that. This isn't a Porsche or something. This is an affordable Japanese sports car, and it's doing a good job. We're on one of the most technical roads you can be on, and the Z is keeping pace, man. And more importantly, here's the key. I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. Power is good. It's handling what I'm throwing at it. It's not putting a foot wrong. It's, you know, it's giving me some confidence to push it a little harder. I was really worried because of the manual and me not jiving with it at first that I wouldn't have a lot of confidence when the time came to, yes, that's what I want, when the time came to drive it. And then I just threw it through that kind of tough set right there, and I felt like I could trust it. And I'm just going faster and faster in it. That's what a good sports car should do. Should inspire confidence. All right, we're on the downward slope here, going north on the Dragon. We've got a few more really intense corners before we get to safety. Woo. That one pushed a little bit. Nothing get the adrenaline going like that. Hey Nissan, we took your like one of one Z that's out in press fleet and we turned it into a pie. Also, the YouTuber who was driving it is no more. I think that was actually more of a visibility issue. I don't think the car was pushing as much as I thought, but I was having a hard time placing it in that downhill corner. It was a little nerve-wracking. And it does have a large hood, and I don't think the brakes are really giving on me. I think it's just a little bit of push there. And I hope any of you guys who are interested in the new Z are finding this valuable, because I don't think you'd be disappointed. Here's the S's. Let's see how it goes through the S's. Yeah, that's pretty good. You feel the weight. There's a little bit of weight in that side-to-side transition. This is not a super light car. I'll put the weight on the screen so that you guys can kind of see how it stacks up against some others in this category. I mean, considering that the Mustang is kind of the only one carrying the torch now, I think a Camaro SS1LE's chassis is probably livelier than this. But I think at this sort of segment now, you're going to have to weigh it against the vibe factor. Like, do you want something that's vibier like the Supra and the Z rather than something that's sort of heritage? Yes, man, that engine, holy crap. The power is there. That is good. That is good. So much more than I expected from this car. I would definitely sit down and make a pro and cons list and weigh what I kind of want in my sports coupe versus the price, versus the fun factor, versus the vibe factor. And I think you're going to find that this makes a better case for itself than you might have initially thought, because I promise you, I sure as hell am. I'm definitely thinking that this thing is making a much better case for itself than my initial impression. Not to mention, I cannot state this enough, how comfortable this car is. Like, it is doing all this, and I am in a lot of comfort, way more comfort than the Supra, that is for sure, okay? That is unquestionable. All right, we're at the effective end of the tail of the Dragon. So that was the Nissan Z on the tail of the Dragon. Now, in case you're wondering about how it's doing in general driving, still very comfortable. Gauge is easy to read, ergonomically sound. I really like the cabin as far as how it fits me. I mean, this is just a really, really, really in-depth refresh of the previous gen, but it feels like a lot more than that, and I like that. The throttle pedal, I really like the way the throttle pedal feels. Like, even though you get more of a build-up from that twin-turbo V6, the throttle feels really good. The brakes are where I wish it had a little bit more kind of bite. And what about cargo space? Is there a ton of it? No, of course there's not a ton of it, but is there enough? Yes. Now, the one drawback to something like the Z is that it'd be hard for me as sort of an enthusiast dad to use it as an everyday driver family car, but now that I have a teen driver, because Ella is almost 17 and she's been driving her RAV4 for, the better part of half a year, so I don't really need to drive around that many people. So cargo space, being limited isn't really a factor. Could you, if you're like me and you're in your 40s and you've got a kid who can drive, could you swing it? Sure. Now, I do have to carry a lot of volleyball gear, and that's a big no. This isn't a Corvette after all, but the Z does have a decent amount of space under the rear hatch for things and stuff. And now for the million-dollar question. Should you buy a Nissan Z? Yes, but I think you should look at some other things first. And not because the Z isn't a good car to stand on its own merits. I think you should look at some other things first to see what is it you really want in a vehicle. Here's where the Z is going to win. Let me share it with you, and then you can comment down below if you think I'm right or I'm full of crap, okay? The Z is going to win because it's a 400 horsepower sports car that is still comfortable to live with. It reminds me a ton of my C5 Corvette, just with much better ergonomics, infotainment, interior materials, and all that kind of stuff, and more power. But it reminds me a lot of that vehicle, and I enjoy that vehicle. I enjoy driving a 6-speed manual in a comfy sports coupe. So the Z has that going for it. It's a lot easier to live with than something like the Supra. So I want you to keep that in mind. And guys, if you think that appeals to you and you think that's the kind of car for you, then the Z might be exactly what you are looking for. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you found this preview helpful. I was super stoked to get some time with the Nissan Z during this awesome weekend at the Dragon. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it informative. If you did, please consider subscribing. Please consider liking. Please consider sharing this. Please consider telling everyone you know about the Jack's Automotive channel. And if you do that, I will smile, okay? Until next time, make sure you drive safe, especially if you're out here on these crazy roads, and I will see you in the next video, but I can't promise it'll be as awesome as the Nissan Z, all right? Peace. Giant trucks cutting the corner is not ideal. Oh, we got cars coming. We got cars coming. Right when you start filming, never fails. Did the Dragon in the Z. Didn't die.